It's only a short presentation from Jan McCormick from MEGC, who wants to come in and talk to us about an event. Its time is of the essence. So she's just going to come in to get our views on what she has to propose. So I'm proposing that what we do is we bring Jan in first. So we don't officially need to open the meeting, although we've got to open it within about 15 minutes or something. 30, is it? Yeah, 15 or 30, I can remember, so we should be fine. So we'll do that before we actually open the meeting proper. Yeah, please, Nikki, yeah, so we'll bring Jan in, and then going to do it just in time. The live streaming is on, so councillors, welcome to the meeting, and for all those viewers who have still hung around, we are in time, and the fact you're waiting around, we're going to make it well worth your while, but not right now because we're going to head back into closed again very soon. Councillors, we do have in fact, the first thing I will do, though, is actually the confirmation of the minutes, which is item 3. So we can actually have someone move that confirmation of the minutes. Councillor Tozer, Councillor McDonald, seconded Councillor McDonald. We'll take the vote on that. All those in favour? That is carried. Councillors, we do actually have, there are 3 items. The 7.1 is a presentation from Placemakers that is in closed session. We do need to go into close for the simple reason that it is something that affects the local government budget, and also it's a commercial in confidence matter. So for those who were tuning in, I'm sorry, but we need to move into closed again. If I can get a mover for to go into close.
Most I moved.
Thank you very much. Councillor Patterson, yeah, thank you very much. That's seconded from Councillor Patterson. All those in favour? That is carried. We're now in closed. now in open and the streaming is on. And welcome back, if anyone's still there. All right, so we've got a recommendation on the screen. Do we have a mover for the recommendation on the screen? Councillor Patterson is happy to move this. Councillor Gates, happy to second this motion. Councillor Patterson, did you have anything you wanted to say?
Big City Lights started last year. It's a new, exciting cultural event for our city with interesting, potential. Last year it was co-funded from 3 levels of government, and we've really upped it this year to show that the city is confident and wants to support this, and we certainly hope that the other groups at state and federal also see fit. Thank you.
Councillor Owen-Jones.
So I'm not interested in changing the recommendation, but I'm just wondering, given the withdrawal of at least one level of government from the funding from last year, whether or not there's any merit in the Mayor's office writing to the federal government in that regards. You know, so I think the CEO highlighted the fact it's one of the examples of where a layer of government provides 1 year's funding and then requires the city to step into the gap. So I think that it would be a really good advocacy thing if we wrote to the current federal government asking them to match or equal the previous government's commitment to culture in the 6th largest city of the country.
I could move. Did you actually want to add that to the recommendation, or is it something you'd like to do independently? So
Yes, I think that'd be great. Thanks. As point 3. That the Mayor...
very good. Okay. Does anyone else want to speak on the matter? Councillor Tozer.
Thank you, Councillor Castro. Look, I'm actually really supportive of innovative, new and exciting events that kind of shape the city's reputation. I actually really like this event. I think it was a really great family-friendly event. I think there has a great potential for appeal, and I think there's something about these catalyst brand new events where we actually need to run a pilot, and then we need to have a plan post-pilot to significantly ramp them up and grow. And I'm not convinced that the funding model we've got here will do very much more than what the pilot did, and I'd hope that it could grow much bigger. So whilst I'm really supportive of the event, I actually think these sorts of events, not every weekend, but perhaps between 4 and 6 throughout the year, I actually think these sort of the events there needs to be a budget allocated for them to be able to grow either with placemakers or other creative organisations, so we can see brand new events have long histories that start with catalyst moments. The pilot is never going to do that. The pilot was well enough attended, I think, for us to grow this event, and I'm concerned that the funding that we're proposing to allocate is both under what the creative partner has recommended for us, but it's also, I think it's going to undercook the potential that this event could have for Southport and the CBD precinct. I am very cognizant that Councillor Patterson, as the Divisional Councillor, is very supportive of this, and I think it's difficult for her to vote against something that supports Southport, but I'd really hope that we could have been much more bullish, much more bold, much more confident in providing some support to our dedicated creative arts agency in the city to grow this event, because it's one they've selected as something they could grow and they think will have great potential. And having visited it, I think I agree with them. So I'll be voting against this motion and thinking about the matter over the coming days until the full council meeting on Monday.
Thank you, Councillor Tozer. Councillor Patterson, do you want to close? Are you happy?
I'm happy, thanks.
Okay. All right, councillors, we'll put the vote to the motion there on the screen with the number 3 that has been added. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. Councillor Tozer, did you want to be recorded? Or? Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, all right. Okay, thank you. So, councillors, we're moving along like a steam train here. Okay, on to the next one. Actually, let's do this short short. I hope it's a short one. Item 6.1. Hang on. Is that right? 6.1, yeah, proposed divisional allocation amendments. It's only affects Division 7 from memory when I looked at it. Sorry? We did the confirmation of the minutes, yeah, we did that. So I'm happy to move this. Seconded Councillor Tozer, so moved myself, seconded Councillor Tozer. It's just reallocation of funding within the divisional budget. So we're happy to take the vote on that. All those in favour? That is carried. Yep. Councillors, we do have another agenda item, which is the HOTA Master Plan review. And I think Trent is coming in and Jeff. Okay. So Jeff, were you actually, or Trent, or is one of you presenting, or are you just happy?
Yes, so we're going to present if you'd like a brief overview.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Overview, yeah.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon all. I guess just the first thing I wanted to say is the administration has received a proposal last year for a digital and screen facility. So some of you may be aware of where that's come from. Obviously, that needs to remain commercial in confidence for this discussion. And if people want to engage a little bit more on that proposal, then there'll be the option, obviously, to go into closed. So just to recap in terms of the discussion that we wanted to have today and where this has come from. So in November last year, we had the information session. I think it was everybody here was present for that, to present where we had got to with the HOTA 2030 master plan. So the concept design, the staging and the functional brief. And out of that discussion, and in particular when we were talking about the projected costings for the new Lyric Theatre, so around $300 or $330 million, and then also the convention facility alongside, the discussion continued around should we be relooking as council at other opportunities to partner with externals to further develop the HOTA precinct. Obviously, this would be the kind of development that, and that's why it's called Allied, that is sympathetic and respects the cultural essence of the precinct. And in terms of allied industry uses, there was the 2017-18 resolution from Council that Council did not at that time want to look at commercial development of the site. So this is an opportunity to relook at that consideration and what we consider to be appropriate allied industry uses. But the first one that we did want to talk about today is this opportunity to look at a digital film school on the HOTA precinct site. So Trent was going to present that first for us.
Good afternoon, councillors. Just check the... Okay, thanks, Jeff. So the presentation today, some of the things Jeff just ran through was that we did catch up here on the 21st November, and we ran through the 2030 master plan, and just there's some of the slides from that package. And what we have been doing is obviously a concept design, staging and a functional brief for that next stage of HOTA, following on from the mid-level review, which happened last year. We also discussed that meeting potential uses of Site B, which was previously shown during the master plan, which is the 6 hectares to the west of Fronts Bundle Road for allied industries. And as Jeff said, notably an education sector interest in film and digital school. Just to revisit, or just kind of go through what we looked on the 21st of November, which is the kind of revised 2030 master plan. And noting in the report, we're looking to come back to council sometime earlier this year to present the HOTA 2030 master plan in more detail, but more importantly, the business case in regards to the operating model and things like that, which we spoke about on the 21st of November. But these are the parts. In essence, it has all the things the master plan has over the history of the project. What has happened is the car parking in this proposal has been decoupled from the Performing Arts Building and is now an on-grade solution. So there's 1,000 car parks on grade, which was different from what we've said before with regards to the structured car parking incorporated both on grade and in structure. So the sites that we spoke about on the 21st were sites B1, B2, B3. No, of course. No, yeah, of course, through the chair. That's okay. No. So the car parks are all the grey areas there. So you can see the North Grade car park to the left here, the Southwest car park, and they're currently the grassed area that's on Bundle Road there. With opportunities.
At grade, underneath the building. A building on top of those.
Not at grade, you mean underground, above ground.
Or a mixture of all those.
Part of the structure.
Okay, thank you.
To help to clarify, Acting Mayor, so I think it's fair to say any opportunity that would be available in these areas would have to maintain the car spaces in some format, whether that's down or build above, because we need 1,000 car spaces on the site for it to operate.
I'm sorry, not too soon.
So, and can I ask a question as well? So you made reference to the workshop that we had, and I wasn't. Was that confidential or non-confidential, or if you're going to talk about it today in open, are we allowed to discuss what was discussed? Somebody? Anyone?
Happy to answer that. I think in broad terms that's fine, as long as we're not talking about specific financials. I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Great. So, and then the site B3 that you've got on the screen there was largely my recollection of where the proposed site was for the film and television. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
So I think probably to clarify through the chair as well, these are where the proposal is going out for not all, is in taking, the school would not take up all the sites, it's providing options, those options for its location that allows for car parking, other infrastructure, and also future ideas to be looked at. So it's not certainly saying all that site would be used for that facility. B1, B2 and B3.
Yeah, just so we're clear, I'm interested in identifying the site on that slide that would be required if, for example, we wanted to narrow it down to just be talking about the exciting opportunity that we had.
It's B3 on that.
Thank you.
So a little bit of the information that we did canvass was the 2015 master plan contemplated this, which is the top left-hand side, but so did the International Design Competition that came through council. And what we're proposing today in the report is to take this opportunity out to an EOI, to an expression of interest, to see what the market might be able to provide for us in kind of leading, digital film production screen school, and which we can assess and bring back to council and put in through a market process. What we believe is a leading university has approached us to seek a digital production school. The facility could include film, television, podcast, media, and all the latest technologies to support that, and to allow students access to leading edge technology. It does have a strong alignment to the city's film industry and long-standing tertiary education sector here on the coast. It could be great for reintroducing international schools or building on international students. Again, potentially generate Australian screen content produced on the Gold Coast, and also build up from the grassroots, which is very aligned to Hodder itself. Would be mutually reinforcing our existing cultural assets, and hopefully create better activation to the site, a more 24-hour or daytime presence on the site, and potentially drive revenue streams within the precinct. A little bit of a timeline is subject to council's decision. We'd start producing an EOI documentation out to market in April, some evaluation in the middle of the year, and a report back to council on the outcome of the EOI in September. As outlined in the report, there's probity advisors, there's an evaluation plan that be developed and things like that. And depending again on the decisions in September or later into the year, we'd move into a more detailed tender process with a number of proponents or a single, depending on the outcome of the EOI. And the next one is allied industry, Jeff, but we might pause there until, with regards to this particular thing.
I think so. Maybe if we focus discussion on the film school first, and then we could talk about the wider opportunities.
So in regards to the expression of interest timeline, you could identify in there just the one parcel, and that would achieve the result we're looking to achieve in regards to the film school.
I think that's through you, Jeff. Whether we're identifying a single site or B1, B2, B3, with regards to seeing what the market's best site, but I think that's...
I think that's something for...
So just so that we're clear, my challenge is that we had a workshop, and the outcome of that workshop to me wasn't an endorsement of a master plan. It was cautionary, and in particular it was requiring the administration to come back to council in a timely fashion, i.e. early this calendar year, with information in regards to the master plan and a business plan and costing of those things. But I think that there was also clear support at the workshop for the idea of encouraging a higher or a tertiary use of a portion of the site. And that's been, I just want to make sure that what came out of the workshop isn't conflated to include the other two sites, because I think that that isn't a reflection of what happened at the workshop. And I wouldn't want the public to believe that we've committed to all three sites without knowing what the master plan looks like.
Okay, so I can respond to that. So the city administration took away from the workshop that there were three elements of work. The first and the most significant was the master plan, which is looking at the tower, the Performing Arts Centre, and an expansion of the Performing Arts Centre and the border site. And that's due to come to council, correct me if I'm wrong, Director, that's coming in the next month or so, isn't it?
Next couple of months?
In the next 2 months. We also took away from that there were two other elements. The first element was the education component, which we're talking about today, and which was, as described, was on the model we just saw, was that B3 site. We also took away from the workshop, and we're here to confirm that today, and if that's not the case, that's okay, that the third piece was to have a look at what are some other things that we can do on the site to help vitalise the site and to look for commercial opportunities, particularly in those two front sections. So there's three discrete pieces of work: master plan, education component, and the broader commerciality of the whole site, particularly focusing on those two sites closest to Bundle Road. Master plan coming in 2 months. The other two components are here today. They're deliberately put separately. So, and because they're two discrete pieces of work, I hope that helps to clarify.
Two questions. First one, I don't have a I don't have a recollection of our resolution having anything to do with that third point. Mm-hmm. Did it, or was it that just more? The workshop, the information that came out of that, I don't remember anything about that third point, or was that an inspired idea post?
No, I can guarantee you, I sat in the chair over there,
okay,
and I spoke about the three elements, including the third. I actually remember in the workshop reading the very clear council resolution that meant that the city administration couldn't look at any further investment opportunities, because we went and got it, and we made it very clear that if we were to do that, that is look at additional investment opportunities on the site, we would need to come back to council.
I think it was just that one I was thinking of. Okay. And through you, Chair, the other question I've got, given that we've got, well, certainly this building and other substantial staff accommodation very close to this, in with regards to the master plan, what's the timing of the staff accommodation review coming back, and would that be considered within this master plan?
Okay, so the timing on the review that we've been very public about, it's not due for at least 3 or 4 months. The work is only just commenced as part of the 1CP change program. It's looking at all accommodation of all city staff. So, of course, it would be looking at this building because we do have staff in this building, and we were clear that didn't exclude this building. So any recommendations that will be made about that review will include the staff element of this building. And then as a consequence to that, it of course will have a flow-on effect to the master plan. So the two are being done concurrently, and I'm confident that the two groups who are doing it will be able to talk to each other. So the master plan will come first. and then we will factor that into the Board of Review, is the short answer. Councillor?
Mr Chair, again, no resolution from the workshop, so it's based on memory of it, and I definitely remember talking about the tertiary option, and it was a catalyst to say, oh, there are other opportunities like this out there, and we, do we wish to explore that? And it was a yes, and that's how we've come to what a process might look like to be able to explore those. But I don't remember it necessarily being that it was absolutely that we were locked into the film and TV side of things. I thought it was more that let's do an open market engagement thing again, to use this morning's terminology, and look at what options and then pick out of those what might be best for the site in terms of increasing utilisation and bringing people here, because I'm just a bit confused why we'd lock ourselves into one proponent and then possibly go through an EIA process that turns out there's other allied industries that would have more people on site, bring more investment and be a better fit. Like, I'm happy for it to be considered as part of the overall proposal, but not lock. I'm just confused why we're locked into one straight away.
Yeah, sorry, we'll see. You want to answer that one? Sorry.
Yeah, so the way the EOI for that component is being done is, yes, the council was approached by an educational institution that had a concept, and what we've said is we'll go and test the market. That's one option, but if there is another allied, or in another way to describe it is another idea that aligns well with the facilities in the Hodder precinct, then yes, that can be included as part of the EOI.
Okay.
I might just add back through the chair, just in response to the last two questions. So in terms of why the digital film school today, and so there was not, I think you're right, the explicit instruction to go away and bring back an EOI, but we've got a proponent, and so there is a little bit more immediacy around that than the other allied industry opportunities that were discussed. So if we don't move now on the COI, there's a risk that we would lose that proponent and they'll go somewhere else.
So, Jeff, I have no issue with moving on the EOI, go for gold on that straight away. It was just more, yeah, someone came up with an idea and said, oh, could we locate that there? That's excellent. And they're the first one to put a suggestion forward. Actually, they probably not have heard of others, but it was just more, if we're going to be picking a site on it or narrowing it down, just for me reading it, in terms of an EOI, that proponent, that tertiary institution could have put that into that stage. I'm just not sure why there's a separation of the two, why it's just not an EOI on site B3. And if that institution wants to put a submission in, that's fine, and it'll be considered amongst everything else.
Well, I guess I can answer that. I think, and what the city administration's doing is reflecting the level of sensitivity that came from councillors in the workshop about the broader commercialisation of the site. I think there was general view that the educational option was very strong, and the other one was a let's have a look, but let's not overcommit to that, because there's a lot of water that's got to go under the bridge before council would be prepared to make a decision of that nature. Can I just add one clarification, please? The map you have in front of you is not a geo-plotted map. So if the educational institute or someone else came to us and said they needed a bit of space either way, then that's the case. That's the general vicinity of where it would be, Councillor. I just want absolute clarity, particularly, Chair, for people who are watching this at home. I don't want them to get the tape measure out and measure that area and go, this is exactly the spot it's going to be in. No, exactly. But I just want absolute clarity. Yeah. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, can I just very quickly comment? So my reason for the question, my reason for the concern is that if you're going to go to the open market and ask industry to put forward proposals, when you include a very specific outcome with the film and TV stuff up front, I'm worried that there would be possibly proponents out there who would go, yeah, okay, they're going to open market, but what they really want is film and TV, we won't bother. I just don't know why we wouldn't have kept it very generic and said this is the opportunity, this is the site, this is some things that we're possibly looking for, instead of including that in there.
So the idea is that we go out to market for creative industries area, which is in B3, not geo-plotted for everyone watching at home through you, Mr. Chair. And then we would go out to market for any other commercial ideas. So the concept, Councillor, is that space, or a space very similar to it, will have a educational arts. What's the words? Can you help me?
Digital education screen and production facility.
So that's we are being very clear about that's what we would do. That's the land use for that. For the rest of it, thank you, councillor. For the rest of it, yeah. For the rest of it, it's an open slather.
And there is a constraint in regards to the city plan in regards to height.
So again, just reinforces why I don't get it, of why we'd be so specific on that. So because someone made an offer or said this is an idea, we've locked ourselves into that. I haven't seen any information provided by the Chief Investment Officer of why that industry or that use is the best to go on here. I haven't seen any numbers around it.
So the report talks about undertaking soft market sounding as well, councillor. So we had the discussion in November. So before we opened a process that would be as wide as perhaps you're suggesting, we'd want to make sure actually that there was the market interest out there to respond. In the case of the digital education facility, we know that there is, but in terms of other opportunities, which was going to be the second part of this presentation, we don't know yet if we get a good response.
Mr Chair, just to clarify, we know there is because one person's put an idea forward, or because we've spoken to others who've said, oh, if that came out to market, we'd have a go at it.
We have one solid, credible proposal, and we understand others are interested as well.
All right.
I have a slightly different view from Councillor Hamill. That was the one component of the whole thing that captured me, because it was someone else's money that we were going to spend. And I think what we're looking at here is the development of this site to its full potential, when previously we've had advice that that's going to be at a cost of approximately $300 to $400 million. And we don't have that money, nor should we be considering spending that money when cost of living pressures are such as they are at the moment for most people. So I came in here with a view that we should take one course of action, and I've changed my mind since I've been sitting here, because for that very fact that if other people want to come forward, and I understand there's been two pretty genuine expressions of interest about the digital film and whatever, and if others want to come forward and spend their millions of dollars developing something on this site that adds to our cultural precinct, I'm all for it. I just don't want to see us having to put our hands in the air and say we're going to build something at 300 to 400 million, because we'd all get chucked out of office. That's not the reason, but everyone would have every right to say that's irresponsible at this point in time. So I've changed my mind, and I think that the expression of interest is a very fine way to go. Just saying.
Through you, Mr Chair, can I just reinforce the point? First, 2 points. Firstly, notice that this isn't locking, to use the councillor's language, this isn't locking the city into anything other than having a look at what's out there. And secondly, the key criteria will be, does it fit with the precinct? So whatever we bring back, and going out to for the expression of interest, it's about how do we get the private sector, as the acting mayor has said, to help invest in infrastructure on the site that aligns with what we're trying to achieve on the precinct. So, and that's really important. And there'll be an opportunity for council to have a look at that once we see what's in the box. We'll come back and show you, and we'll have a discussion then about whether it's appropriate and whether it should be built.
And that was the one thing, if I might just continue, that I was hopeful that any future information could come back for consideration before the council, rather than giving leeway for, with no disrespect intended, but to make sure that any proposal before we go any further step is presented to the council for consideration.
So through you, Mr Chair, so that is the intent. If that's not expressed clearly enough in the recommendations, I'm sure city officers are happy to amend the recommendations to reflect that.
Okay, thank you.
I think we're probably there, to be honest.
The second part, is that... Sorry, you
The second part's about the soft market sounding, so I'll just, with regards to the other sites, so just let me move through. Yep. Did you want to talk to this one, Jeff?
So this is
I don't think. Will I go and change it?
So we talked about the first part, which is the more targeted digital film school opportunity. So this would be the third limb of this exercise around allied industry opportunities. So again, as we'd need to go out and undertake some soft market sounding, we don't know if there's actual market interest around some of these things, but there's some possibilities up there on the screen that we just think from a city administration perspective would be sympathetic, allied, and respect the cultural essence of the precinct. Griff, those slides back? Sure.
Sorry, I didn't know we were going to.
We're back.
Keep going. So there you can see them on screen, like an art hotel, I think was actually discussed at the workshop, a film post-production hub, which would create a more resilient film production sector here for the Gold Coast. It could be appropriate commercial office space, food and beverage outlets, or media outlets. And media, you might think about Federation Square, has a major broadcaster there. South Bank in Brisbane has a major broadcaster on site as well, and they're both, iconic cultural precincts. So we've talked about some precedents for the kind of allied industry opportunities, if you know some of those locations around Australia. Who's got the clicker?
Yes.
That's it.
Jeff, have media outlets like 10, 9, 7, ABC ever expressed interest in co-locating at Hodder? Is that something that, I'm pretty sure we're in an open session, so there's only a limited amount you can say, but is that something we've ever explored before?
Yep. Well, I can't answer that because I've only been here since October.
No.
But we've talked about examples where that's seen as
Jeff.
well, aligned and complementary to creative and cultural precincts.
Don't use the name of the broadcaster.
Through the chair, very, very early on, back when those sites were endorsed in the master plan, there was some conversations with a broadcaster very, very early on, but they didn't go very far. But there were some early thoughts about a broadcaster moving to the site.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's a broadcaster in the city, I think, who might own a site in Mermaid Beach, so who knows?
They were interested.
Can I also just add through the chair that I just want to reinforce, particularly for those watching at home or in their office at a media outlet, that is not the definitive list of what could be on the site. There are examples, there are plenty of other options, and really we're asking the market to come back to us and tell us what the solutions could be. So it's not a prescriptive or list in any way.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. My understanding is that all of these areas, I'm not so sure about Federation Square, but all the others are far bigger than our site. And there was, way back, there was certainly the intent for this to be cultural precinct, but also to recognise its amazing outdoor space. Is there any consideration of that and how that works in relation with a bill, effectively two different recommendations which both require boxed buildings with no windows?
Okay, so I guess I would answer that by saying anything that came back through the EOI process on either of the two EOIs we're proposing would need to be extremely sympathetic to the environment, and not just the natural environment, but also the built environment and the tower and the overall look that has been achieved by the production of that tower. And I'm confident, I'm very confident, that what we are proposing, the areas we are proposing are sensible and appropriate, and we're still maintaining a lot of green space, particularly with the lagoon and the back of the isle of the peninsula. So this is area which would otherwise have been ground-based car park under the current plan.
So, sorry, so Tim, as far as the car park goes, when we say we need 1,000, until we know what's going there, though, we don't really know whether we need more or we need less. Sorry.
The thousand, and I'm sure the officer will correct me if I'm wrong, Chair, the 1,000 is based on the current theatre and the potential for the second theatre. So, yep, and your point, which is a good one, any of the additional ideas they would have to factor additional car parking over and above the 1,000.
Just a quick question through the chair. Trent, the top picture there with the possibilities in it, is that supposed to be depicting what is? Because I'm just looking at all the green bridges and thinking how often we've said no, 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 no to green bridges, and yet we're depicting something with green bridges. So just a thought.
Through the chair, so that's Elizabeth Key, councillor, and that's actually
all I needed to know. Yeah.
What we're just depicting there, I think, is it's a mix of both public space, so it was a public development to bring the Perth waterfront back to Perth, but it also has allied industry. You can see some kind of renders there and things like that. So they're in a very similar process, or if not a bit further, in kind of promoting allied use in what was a public space. It was part of their master plan as well. So
it'd be nice if it could say that somewhere on there. Thanks.
no worries.
I mean, I think we're there and we don't just need to be. So number 2, that council take out for the reasons rah, 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 and just council instructs the Chief Executive Officer. Take out for the reasons. Keep going down to where you get to instructs. Yep, take that out. For my motion, yeah. That council instructs the Chief Executive Officer, in brackets Chief Investment Officer, in accordance, to undertake an expression of interest process. And I would rather take out the piece in brackets that says including an early tender or involvement process if required, and I'd rather just say to identify and shortlist respondents that are capable of delivering a digital and screen education facility development on the proposed B3 of the Hotter Site Master Plan. Sorry, did you get all that? I was reading. That council instructs the Chief Executive Officer, Chief Investment Officer, in accordance... Oh, there's a whole lot of stuff. In accordance with Clause 228 of the Local Government Regulation 2012. Sorry, that goes up the top after Chief Investment Officer. If you could just move that bit back up to after Chief Investment Officer. Are you cranky? Oh, you are?
I think we're all in front of ourselves.
I just think everyone's got opinions today, Councillor Cutchy. You're normally so efficient.
Do you want me to come over there and help? I can. Sorry. I know how hard it is.
And so, Jeff, in 3 where it talks about disposal of suitable site, the disposal word is because entering into a lease for land is considered to be a disposal under the Local Government Act. Is that correct? Even though we remain the landlord?
That's correct. So generally, we've got the options of sale, lease or licence. Sale's often not appropriate in this kind of situation, in that there'd be no guarantee if the developer did not deliver on the condition for us to then retake the land. lease provides the licence is not the sufficient security for a developer to invest the kind of quantum of funds that this sort of facility would require. So lease is that middle option whereby we've got that control, and there is the option, but it wouldn't be appropriate here, obviously, in terms of freeholding when they did deliver on the development.
But through you, Chair, consistent with the changes, it will come back here before that decision's made.
Yeah, and do you mind, Councillor Gates? And in regards to 2 and 3 and the phrasing of disposal by way of lease, the reality is, given the digital and screen education facility, we are most likely going to receive an expression of interest from a existing NGO of some description.
Yes.
So the opportunity is still available for a for-profit to be involved, but that would most likely be slim given the proposed lease structure.
Well, I wouldn't want to seek to determine the outcome, but we'll wait and see. My only answer to that is we'll wait and see what's in the tender pile when it's completed.
Yep.
So, Councillor Owen-Jones, does that answer your question? Because your concern was with the word or the term disposal, yeah? So that
So we're disposing of an interest in the site by way of a lease, which is a whole lot different than a public tender to exchange a portion of the site as freehold title. So and in doing so, because of the targeted audience being the digital and screen education facility development, we are most likely, but it doesn't exclude, but we're most likely going to end up with an NGO.
So through you, Chair, I've had this question a lot through my career. That is the appropriate legal language to describe a lease, particularly for those watching at home, through you, Chair. That's the appropriate legal language to describe a lease over government, or in our case, local government land. It's not a disposal, but that's the language that's used.
going to look at 7 and 8, sorry, but yes, Councillor Toad.
I just wondered if, through you, Councillor Gates, you've made a few changes and I've kind of read them. What was your intent with those changes, if you would mind just kind of briefing?
My intent is purely putting control back within the council and rather than delegating to the CEO an opportunity to progress further with any tender information once the expressions of interest have been provided to council. I think, there could be a thought today that we're way ahead of ourselves in this regard, but I personally don't have a problem with going forward with the expressions of interest so that we've got something to assess and that is not at the expense of the ratepayers. Because that's my major concern, that the ongoing development of this site is unaffordable for the ratepayers at this point in time, whereas if we as a council consider any other option that doesn't cost the ratepayers funding, I think that's a fine thing to do. So that's the intent of my changes.
So I kind of grappled a little bit with that, so we're trying to constrain it. The other thing that it seems it's different is you've specifically identified B3 and excluded B1 and B2. Was that intended?
Only because the CEO indicated that was the preferred site for what's being proposed. So it's not my preference, but I was just highlighting that. If the CEO feels that I should take B3 out, I'll take B3 out.
Through you, Chair, I think in order to get the absolute best outcome, and given that it sounds as if the will of the meeting is that you're going to agree both, I think it's probably better that it comes out, to be honest.
Okay,
and
I'm happy with that.
The reason I raise that is I actually would not like to preclude any of the sites for this specific purpose. So I don't know what's out there, and I'm interested to know what's out there. It sounds like there's someone quite credible up front, but
I'm okay with that. It doesn't have a seconder yet. I'm okay.
I would love to second it.
Go ahead.
I think I can reinforce that. So what I'm trying to say, councillors, is whenever you do an expression of interest like this, the broader and the more options you can give, the more likely it is you're going to get a good outcome.
Exactly.
So I think let's not exclude it and let's just make it on this broadly on all three or on the site.
So one thing I did want to ask about that is that there's been, in open session, we've talked about this idea of it effectively being almost targeted towards an NGO, maybe an education organisation. Is there anything in this that would preclude a film production house from partnering with an education provider, a commercial education provider that was not an NGO, to make a bid?
Through you, Chair, no.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, and through the chair, I just want to clarify in relation to the tender, and we're talking about opening up and make sure we catch what we can. And my understanding what we're saying there is we're talking to facilitate digital and screen education facility for the particular site. And it might touch on what Councillor Hamill said earlier, that if we're opening up to all industries, I think, are we a bit tight by not throwing the net out? It doesn't mean it can't come back to us. Okay.
Market sounding exercise and assessment for a range of allied opportunities.
Okay. For all three, yep.
Through you, Chair. So what City Administration and City officers are saying is that we think an educational institution is a great fit for this site and we should get on and do a tender for that as soon as we possibly can. Right. We also think that there are potentially other opportunities for the site and we should get on and do that as a secondary issue, much broader, much more complex, difficult. So it's about both. But the reason we've split them is because we think an educational institution is a really good fit in the film and arts sector, is a really good fit. So we just want to get on and do that. And then based on the conversation today, we'll offer that for the whole site with a focus on that area so that we can catch as big a net as possible and cast as big a net as possible, I mean.
And through you to Jeff, what is the proposed timeline for the film and television portion of that expression of interest? Yeah, I appreciate that, but it's not in the recommendation, Mr. Chair.
We'll just bring those slides back up because we have detailed the months of the year, this year when we would run it, and bring it back to council.
Do you want to put it in there?
But isn't that kind of superfluous now? Wouldn't we be better just having this report come back in? No. Like, why do we need the master plan again? And
Through the chair, the 2030 master plan update in a couple of months' time would be more about the operating cost and business case that we spoke about a bit earlier.
I see.
And we're thinking there's an ability at that same time to talk about the soft market sounding, so there's other allied industries if we were at that point. So we were bundling those two things together. But the essence is that back in a couple of months' time, we'll come back to council for the civic components on the site for consideration.
okay, so Councillor Owen Jones seems to have an interest in adding September 23 somewhere.
Yeah, in regards to the film and television section.
So, if they undertake expression of
So while that's going on, to help for clarification to you, Deputy, or I should say Acting Mayor.
I've got another minute or two left.
So the master plan really focuses on the things that we as the city would be paying for.
So it's somewhere in 6. Can you drop it down so we can read 6?
For a digital.
And maybe it's
Comes
just
back before council by September
or
2023.
or October 2023, which gives you some flexibility.
Thank you.
Okay, by October 2023.
Yeah. So it gives you flexibility and the
Okay.
market process.
So rather than, sorry to the minute taker for all this, comes back before council. Yeah, by October 2023, subject to
Market process.
the market process. Sorry, the market process. Happy?
Subject to the market process.
Is that
And
what
then
you-
you still want your full consideration.
That based on the.
Yeah, so the words that you had, and then you had for
Well, so-
consideration.
To the advice proposal. Comes back before the council for consideration. Sorry, yeah. After council, we put for consideration by, yeah. Thank you. Is everyone happy with that?
So you're basically saying that, subject to the market process, that it may not come back in October if everything
Right.
gets held up or we don't get the submissions and...
Might come back in September if the administration is efficient.
It might,
it might.
you never know,
It
might
might
come
indeed.
back
Okay.
next
Following
month.
due process.
So moved.
I won't be submitting an EOR myself. That would put me in a position of terrible conflict, but I am seconding the motion, yes.
Seconding, so there we go, I thought you did. All right, okay. So, Councillor Gates, did you wish to?
Look, all I want to say is that we're along the way with the delivery of this cultural precinct, and I think we all recognise that potential allied opportunities on the site would be valuable. And so let's see what's out there and get on with it through this process that doesn't require an injection of council funds. There's sufficient funding in the budget to conduct this expression of interest campaign and, yeah, grow our cultural heart.
Thank you, Councillor Gates. Councillor Tozer, did you want to?
Yeah, I just want to say I really appreciate it. It's been a good debate. It's a really interesting topic. It's a really exciting project for the city. Particularly what I love is that we've taken a site that belongs to the city, the people of the city, and we're looking at ways to attract potentially a long-term lease with someone in a targeted industry. And that sort of public-private partnership is pretty rare. But I think it's a model that I'd like to see more of, whether it's this sort of site or other sites in the city. And I hope that this process, as we go through it, can prepare us and give us good experience in delivering this sort of outcome wherever we are in the city and whatever targeted land uses we have in a particular location.
Well said. Councillor Owen Jones.
So I'm not a member of the committee, so I don't get to vote. But the recommendation does three things. One of them, which I think is really important, and that is the allied industry. And I think that we should all be mindful of, whilst it talks of disposal, it is actually by way of maybe a future lease, and it would be something that would help activate the site. And I think that that definitely was one of the outcomes that came out of the workshop that was held. However, I'm now going to apply a bit of a wet blanket, and that is in regards to, I think, the next most important thing about today's recommendation is the last item, which talks about the need for a business case and the master planning, because whilst I appreciate the allied industry and another industry or another entity coming and investing on our side, I remain very cautious about the future development of this site until we can see what a business case looks like. And if anything came out of the workshop, it was, I think, caution from the majority of the councillors in regards to making sure that if we invest any more of the city's money in the cultural precinct, we do that very carefully and knowing full well what the operational costs of a future investment would be. So I'm loath to come out of today's meeting with the residents that I represent thinking that I am full steam ahead with a $500 million investment in additional cultural outcomes on this site without having seen the business case or the master plan. So I need to make that really clear. And then the second part I'm ambivalent about, but it is effectively an expression of interest campaign over and above the digital and screen to see what else may be out there. But there's probably a waypoint after the master plan where the councillors need to be cautious about what that might look like as well, because if we go all the way back to the original master plan, there was car parking in the structure, there was lots and lots of landscaping, and there was connection via a green bridge across to Chevron Island and parking and maybe some activation over there as well. So I think we just need to be cautious about how far we may be stepping away from the original intent of the master plan. And my final observation is just in regards to the B1 section. It is frighteningly close to the church and the arbour that was planted in the 80s by Lex Bell. And I think that we need to be really, really cautious about how the interface of any built development in that area actually activates the site. And I think that we need to be just slow in our way forward, because as Councillor Daphne McDonald said this morning when we were discussing the Bruce Bishop car park, we only get one opportunity in regards to the land that we own, and when we dispose of an interest, we need to be very, very cautious.
Okay. Back to you, Councillor Gates, to close.
Okay, well, I appreciate the sentiment expressed by Councillor Owen-Jones, but we are expecting an update report early this year. Well before we consider anything else, we get the business case. So we get the business case in the next couple of months, and that will outline, I'm sure, the ongoing operational costs. But why I'm supporting this motion today is in the hope that we can develop and continue to develop our cultural precinct without a massive injection of ratepayers' funds to the tune of the $500 million that's been mentioned. I don't think you'd get a hand up in this room to allocate $500 million at this point in time. It's not even up for consideration, and nor will it ever be, in my view. It's just untenable, because there are cost of living pressures that everybody is feeling, that are bearing down on everyone. And for me, for the further development of this site, this is absolutely the best way forward to see what other types of allied industries may have an interest in developing a portion of this land, leasing it from the city, that can fully activate the site and see it deliver on the potential that we all hoped it had.
So, okay. With that, I shall put the vote. All those in favour? Against? Okay. No one on the committee against? Okay. That is carried. Councillors, I believe that completes the agenda. There wasn't any general business that was, but I would ask for any of those who can actually stay back for the matter that I spoke about, which isn't part of the agenda. It's just a briefing on another matter. If you could stay back, that'd be great. So with that, I will declare the meeting closed. Thank you. All right. And the streaming.